He's the youngest man ever to have won an Oscar for Best Leading Actor, but did his win result in a complete derailment of his career? Adrien Brody seemed to have everything going for him: looks, charm, and undeniable talent, but after he won his Oscar for the role in The Pianist, it appeared that his career grew stagnant. Is it possible that he gave so much of himself to The Pianist that there was nothing left for his future roles? Is it true that the actor never truly recovered from performing in the heart-wrenching Holocaust film? Before we get into it, make sure to subscribe to Rumour Juice and give the notification bell a click so that you can be the first to know when we post up some juicy content. The Pianist launched Adrien Brody into a newfound level of celebrity status. Despite having worked in the film industry for quite some time, it wasn't until The Pianist was released that the actor finally began to get the recognition he had been seeking for so long.
I've been doing this for a really long time, and to finally be mentioned with actors who I greatly admire.
Nicholson, Kane, to take
Daniel
two.
Day-Lewis,
Daniel
Nicholson,
Day-Lewis,
I mean,
take
they're
three.
phenomenal.
Adrien was cast as a musician in the film that portrays the horror of World War II.
It's not funny. Well, you know what's funny? You're funny, with that ridiculous tie.
What are you talking about my tie for? What does my tie have to do with anything, huh? I need this tie for my work.
Your work.
Yes, that's right, I work.
Yes, your work.
The movie itself is challenging to watch as the audiences are painted a story of pain and indescribable loss of those who suffered during the war. Since the movie is difficult to watch, can you imagine what it must have been like to act in it? We're not sure if any of us can, but Adrien was open about his experience making the film, and it was nothing short of a trauma in itself. Brody took a deep dive into the world of method acting for his role in The Pianist. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, method acting is basically a technique that involves becoming fully committed to the character, mentally and physically, not only on camera but off camera too. In order to portray the most sincere and honest emotions for the film, actors invest themselves entirely into a character, almost completely dissociating from themselves entirely. Sounds pretty intense, right? That's because it is. Famous method actors include Heath Ledger for his role as Joker and Angelina for her role in Girl Interrupted.
It's, it was a not a pleasant place to kind of live in.
So that's what Adrien did. He threw himself into his role, and it seems like he was never able to recover from it. His first step into immersing himself in the part was to actually learn how to play the piano. He spent hours every day practicing the pieces that he would be performing in the film because he felt like it was important that he really played the piano and wasn't just pretending to do so.
I would have piano lessons every day because it was very important for Roman that I learn to play so that he could actually use it. And fortunately, I was able to pick up a lot pretty quickly. I practice all the time.
The next thing he did is probably the most dangerous, and it practically puts his life on the line for his performance. Adrien began to starve himself for his role. As a result of the war, his character in the film survives on very little to almost no food for months, looking terribly thin and frail. The actor ended up losing around 30 pounds for these scenes, getting down to a dwindling 130 pounds. There is an emptiness that comes with really starving that I hadn't experienced. I couldn't have acted that without knowing it. I've experienced loss, I've experienced sadness in my life, but I didn't know the desperation that comes with hunger. Before you think that he was done there, Adrien took his immersion into his character another step further. In order for him to really understand the loneliness, isolation, and poverty his character felt, the actor decided to put himself in the same position.
And I also chose to isolate myself for that time to kind of, I felt that I needed to experience a level of loneliness and deprivation.
He sold his car, moved out of his apartments, and did everything he could to leave behind his materialistic belongings. His dedication to his character became so intense and overwhelming that his girlfriend at the time even broke up with him. I was in a very dark, sad, raw place, all day, every day. There was no moment to leave it. There was only time for sleep. Even though it exhausted me emotionally and used me up, it was the price I had to pay. And a price he did pay, indeed. Even after his work with The Pianist was done and he had the Golden Oscar win in his pocket, Brody's mental health had already begun to decline and he suffered from terrible depression. It wasn't just depression, it was a mourning. I was very disturbed by what I embraced in making that film and of the awareness that it opened up in me. Brody spent the year following the completion of the film sleeping on friends' couches and trying to reconnect with the loved ones that he had spent so much time pushing away. He was trying to put the pieces of what he remembered to be a normal life, but somehow he wasn't able to shake off the dark hole that the pianist had left in his soul. The actor struggled to face the fact that his life was completely changed by the impact that the film had on the world and on his career. Everywhere he turned, there was paparazzi there ready to take his picture and bombard him with questions about his personal life. So, while he was trying to heal the damage that his role in The Pianist had done to his mental health,
Being away from your culture and your loved ones for half a year, playing a man who's hated and put through the ringer is really difficult.
he was trying to come to terms with the fact that he was now a celebrity and his life would never be the same again. Being anonymous is a great luxury. It's a big loss to lose that. Mostly, the loss is the ability to observe others without being observed yourself, and as an actor, that is your key tool. It's also safe to say that Brody faced a string of bad luck after his acclaimed Oscar win. Perhaps it started just as his name was called out at the awards ceremony in 2003. Halle Berry called the actor on stage, and in one of Brody's more infamous moments, he grabbed presenter Halle Berry and kissed her right on the stage for everyone to see. That was not planned. I knew nothing about it. I was like, what the f is happening right now? That was what was going on through my mind, Halle Berry said of the intimate moment. While no one said it at the time, following the #MeToo movement years later, Brody faced some severe backlash for his move on Halle Berry. He also faced more criticism after defending Roman Polanski and his other director friend Woody Allen, who were both under scrutiny over the #MeToo protest. After his Oscar win, Hollywood was buzzing about Adrien Brody and everyone wanted a piece of him. Like many fresh-faced actors before his time, Brody was asked to come and host the Saturday Night Live show. The host always performs a monologue and always introduces a musical guest, who that night was Sean Paul, a reggae performer. The actor then decided to improvise his introduction of Sean Paul, and he arrived on stage wearing fake dreadlocks. He even put on a Jamaican accent and went on to say a handful of stereotypical comments. The actor was subsequently never invited back onto the show, and there were even whispers of him having been unofficially banned. As years went by, audiences began to see less and less of Brody. After The Pianist, he did a bunch of movies that never seemed to amount to the same heights as his debut into the world of film. Soon, it seemed that Hollywood became bored of Adrien. What initially came off as quirky and charming suddenly became weird, and he became associated as one of the one-hit wonders of Hollywood. The world of fame basically swallowed him, chewed him up, and spat him back out, without even a second glance. No one thought that perhaps deep down, the actor was still suffering from the trauma that he put himself through for The Pianist. He was the youngest man to ever win an Oscar for Best Leading Role, and Hollywood dumped him. It might be also fair to say that Brody peaked in his career too soon, becoming a victim of his own success. I was perceived as this very serious, dramatic actor. And he felt like this had resulted in him being typecast, especially when he so desperately wanted to express himself in many different ways. He's always believed that the purpose of being an actor is, quote, to be as much of a chameleon as possible. It seems over the most recent years that Adrien has been making a slow return to cinema, but is very specific about the roles he takes on. He's spoken about how much he enjoys working with director Wes Anderson because he's allowed the freedom to have fun and perform as interesting characters rather than be restricted and typecast. It might have surprised fans to see Brody in Anderson's films like The Darjeeling Limited or The Grand Budapest Hotel, but the actor admits that these movies have made him feel like he could open up and become his true self once again. I crack myself up all the time, whether I'm doing something stupid or saying something ridiculous, and being able to harness that and bring laughter and lightness, that is something that I've always yearned to do with my work. During his time away from the spotlight of Hollywood fame, he spent a lot of time painting, but he's also gone and finally found love with none other than Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife, Georgina Chapman. The actor has never been married and has had a few relationships over the years, but maybe this time with Chapman will be different. The pair locked eyes at an event and something seemed to just click. It should come to no surprise that Georgina has been going through a difficult time over the past few years, feeling an immense amount of shame and embarrassment over the behavior of her ex-husband. Reports say that Chapman and Brody have found solace in one another and are having a wonderful time together. Perhaps she will be able to bring lightness into the dark places that the pianist left behind in Brody, and maybe he can restore Georgina's faith and love once again. As always, we are eager to see your opinion in the comment section below, and do tell us which topic we should cover next. Behind-the-scenes dramas of your favorite shows? Why did this seemingly perfect couple break up? How come this Hollywood hottie is still alone? Who holds the title of the most fan-friendly celebrity? Make your voice heard, and we at Rumour Juice will make sure you are never bored. Subscribe to our channel and don't forget to tell your friends how cool we are.